I think everybody's here. Tonight, Ken is going to talk about Linux Mint as a new user to Linux Mint, but not a new user to Linux. So he's going to be very judgmental and mean, and then he's going to show us happy, smiley things. And then after that, we're going to have Super Lee and Super Don here give apparently a demonstration on some other fun things relating to OpenSUSE. So if you want to, Ken, go ahead and rock and roll.
Okay. So what he said was pretty much right. I've got experience with Linux workstations going back to 1998 or so, but never any experience with Linux Mint until the last few weeks. This was actually a goal-based exploration. There were some specific problems I needed to solve. And we'll talk about those as we go through this. Or the subtitle is Fixing the Cataloger's Workstation. And I will explain what that means. So this pretty much duplicates what I said before. I'm in Mint, but I've set up other Linux workstations for a while now. And that's what I do. And most of you have probably seen that before too. Acknowledgements. The Linux Mint logo is used under the Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 International License. Now we're legal. So, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Cataloger's Workstation, the problems that I needed to solve, an overview of Linux Mint, at least from the perspective of somebody who's coming to it for the first time, and what happened when I tried it. So, I support the workstation of the Wheat Cataloger at Project Gutenberg. Who here doesn't know about Project Gutenberg? Okay. Project Gutenberg is a project that supplies free ebooks which are no longer in copyright in the United States. So mostly what that means is that those are publications which date from before the birth of Mickey Mouse. There are a few exceptions, things which were created afterwards but which did not have the copyright renewed, but mostly it's older material like before 1922 or so. And what does it mean to be a lead cataloger at Project Gutenberg? It means that they've reviewed and updated more than 30,000 digitally graphic records. This system also gets used for other things, artwork, games, music, and writing. And it is, from my perspective, a high availability system in the sense that there is a cold spare sitting next to it that can be fired up by restoring a backup of /home, and off it goes. So the hardware history of this system is that back in the last century, it started as a no-name AMD K62. In 2003 or so, it got updated to an IBM IntelliStation. That was the beginning of a practice of a buying practice of getting high-end equipment that was about 3 years old. That's worked out well for me. In 2010, the IBMs were replaced with a couple of Dell Precision 390s. Once again, they were 2 to 3 years old at the time, and they have given good service. They're easy to work on. They have nice cases, and so forth. Hardware details. There are two of these systems. They're not exactly the same, but this is the minimum configuration. So, at least for the time, pretty decent video cards, and for the time, pretty decent processors, PCC memory. They're, very nice systems. They're just a little old. Whoops. So what's the software history? We started out with Red Hat, and then went to Pink Tie, which was the Cheap Bytes, Red Hat source free package. And then about the time that seemed to be kind of a hassle to work with, I'd gotten a fair amount of experience running Debian on servers, so I went to Debian. And after a little while, we hit the really long gap between Debian releases and needed something to update more often, and went to Ubuntu. We got to Ubuntu 10.0.4 LTS, and that's when things started to go wrong. That was the version of Ubuntu where somebody decided that it would be a great step forward to move the controls top of the window from this side to that side, throwing away all the muscle memory of all the users in the world who are already using that system. That should have told me, you know what, you're going to have to change. This is not going to work out. And, if you look at what's happened to Ubuntu since then, they've kept doing, at least from my perspective, pretty weird things with the user interface. So what's happened is that it turns out that Ubuntu 10.04 LTS seems to have worn out. There are a bunch of things that have stopped working, and those need to get fixed. So the question was, what's next? I'd heard a bit about Linux Mint. It had been mostly favorable. From what I understood to be the case, the user interface would seem familiar to somebody who'd been using my, this modified 10.04 setup, because I had searched around until I found the magic keywords, to move the controls back to where they'd been before. It's not that where they were before was better or worse. It's just, muscle memory. Used to going over there. You don't need to change that. You don't have to. So, this was the plan. Find a workable replacement for Ubuntu, install it on the cold spare, make sure that it seems to be working, restore a backup of home onto the cold spare, swap systems. If Cataloger is happy, do an install on the formerly live system, restore backup, and swap systems. The reason for that final swap is that the live system has a faster processor and a faster video card and better performance. So here's some words from the Mint project's homepage. They sound pretty. The purpose of Mint is to produce a modern and elegant and comfortable operating system. Started in 2006, they claim to be the 4th most widely used home operating system. Now, okay, that sounds like a promising start. This is where it starts to get tricky. There are many flavors of Mint, so if you're approaching this from the first time, you run into the question of which one will I get. There's the Cinnamon Release 17 LTS and the Mate 17 LTS, and those are available now. There's a Debian-based Mint, which is, well, I'm not even sure if it's numbered the same, but if it is, it's version 17 isn't out yet. It would be still in release candidate status. Likewise, for both Cinnamon and Mate. There are XFCE and KDE versions of Mint, which also don't seem to get updated quite as fast as Cinnamon and Mate. So from my perspective, what I probably wanted to do was to go with the most mainstream, the one that's getting the most attention from project personnel, unless it wouldn't work for me for some reason. Some Googling suggested that was probably Cinnamon, so that was where I started. So the first step was to download the DVD image, burn a DVD, and then boot the live DVD and see how we were doing as far as fixing some of the problems. One of the problems we were having was that the Library of Congress catalog which is a source for cataloging information used by the cataloger. The Library of Congress catalog, when it puts up a bib record, that's a record about a book or a magazine or some other holding they have. That's not maybe the best way of saying it, because I'm not talking about the holding record, but this is the description of what that thing is. So if it's a book, it's going to have the author, and it'll have subjects, and it will have all that other kind of information. The Library of Congress online catalog puts that information up. It times it out after a few minutes and bounces you back to the Library of Congress's homepage. I assume that this is a way for them to conserve their resources in some way. But in any case, that is what they do. Well, that's fine. The cataloger can live with that. But what's happening currently under Ubuntu is that that timeout kills the browser. It didn't used to happen, but it does now. After some update somewhere along the way, Library of Congress bib record times out, browser's dead. Got to close the browser, restart. It's a pain in the butt. YouTube videos it stopped playing some time back. Well, that's, yes?
These problems, are they problems with Ubuntu, or are they problems with Linux?
No, these are the problems with Ubuntu. And the question was, did the live DVD fix these problems? Okay. So, YouTube videos wouldn't play. Well, that's not crucial for cataloging. Systems used for other purposes as well. That was a problem. PDF files displayed in the browser were often displayed with the wrong font, to the extent that they would be illegible. You know, displaying English in a Chinese font just isn't very helpful. And there's a local site, well, there was a local site called Arts Zipper run by the Regional Arts Commission, and the Cinnamon Mint Live DVD fixed access to that site. Unfortunately, between then and now, they've closed that site and replaced it with something which I find much less useful. On the other hand, there were some things that didn't look so good with the live DVD. Streaming audio didn't work. The system fans run at full speed. This system's got really good fans, but under Ubuntu, most of the time they're turned down. And getting Google to be the default search engine was a real pain in the butt in Firefox browser. I got it to work, but I had to try about 3 times. So, while these aren't great, I decided that I'd made enough progress that it was worth going ahead and trying and install. And so I did. So what happened during the install? Hey, it found Ubuntu and Windows XP. It offered to erase Ubuntu and with Windows XP in place. I thought this was great. It was just what I wanted. It had some other options too, but it offered the option that I wanted, and that was really cool. I didn't have to kind of like go in and customize the partitions or any of that. What I wanted was an option. You got the standard language, time zone, keyboard stuff that you usually get if you're doing a Linux distribution install. After it did the install, it did not auto reboot. I turned the system off and started up again. A little glitchy, but I'm not going to be installing every day, so that's not too big a problem. There were 270 megabytes of post-install updates, which I was a little surprised because the Mint 17 release was pretty recent. Definitely within the last month. XP still boots. Hey, that's good. It almost never gets used on this system, but if it ever needed to, I'd like to have it.
Was there an option to just nuke XP or not?
Oh, you could nuke the whole disk.
Okay, I just wanted to check.
Yeah, but from my perspective, I mentioned this was kind of a focused problem-solving exploration. Whoops. I seem to be having key bounce.
Sticky keys?
Well, mouse bounce. So, after the install, what was fixed is still fixed. Banshee can play streaming audio, and setting up Google for the default search worked much better than it did the first time.
Would it come for people?
I don't remember.
I thought Google was the default.
Nope.
No.
On all Firefox, almost all
Not
Firefox.
on me.
Well, it is on.
Well, actually, I can't get
Sure.
rid of Google as the
They
default
use
search engine.
DuckDuckGo as default on that.
What's that?
DuckDuckGo is default.
Ah, okay. There you go then. Thank you, Stan. So, you know, this is looking good. However, there are some issues. It won't resume from a suspend. This is a deal killer. This is a feature that gets used very frequently by the cataloger. Sometimes, you know, if they're taking a break, they'll suspend the system, or they also have their system set up, the current system set up so that after, I don't know, 10 minutes of activity, whatever, it goes to suspend. So, you know, that's a problem.
So it goes to suspend and then doesn't come back.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, we'll talk about that in more detail. It doesn't turn down the fans still. That's annoying, but I'm willing to risk that. And the right column of the start menu, it's the way its start menu works. It is over on the left side. You've sort of got some general categories. If you pick one of those categories, then it picks the sub-items under that and shows the sub-items under that in the right-hand column. But if you move your mouse too fast, the right column of the start menu is corrupt. That's not so good either. It might not be a deal breaker. So, I did the obvious thing. Well, no, it's not obvious actually, but I got lucky. I changed the video driver. When I looked at the driver information, I learned that it did not install the driver that's marked as recommended. It installed the open source driver. The recommended driver is a binary only driver from NVIDIA. A 53 megabyte download, but it fixes suspend. That's good. We're on track here. It turns down the video card fan. That's, you know, a small step in the right direction. And it turns out that it also fixed the problem with that menu. Okay. So we got two fixes, part of the third. So, having found a bug and found workarounds to it, I filed 2 bug reports identified there. If you go look up those bugs for Linux Mint at Launchpad, you'll find that it says that, you know, with this hardware and this driver, you get this symptom, changing the driver fixes it. Yes. Nobody else had reported these in that way. You know, when I went prowling around to find out, well, it doesn't come back from suspend, what I found was a lot of people who reported that symptom, but not much in the way of specific answers. It seemed like they were likely to help me.
PCPI, no PCI option.
Mentioned, but, you know, this did it. Another difference with Mint is that flash drives mount under a different name. It's not a big deal if you know about it, but if you're, you know, looking in the wrong place, you won't find your flash drive right away. Also, it requires a change to the backup script that's set up for this system. The system gets backed up once a month. There's a set of rotating media, the flash drives. So that's one of the things they'll need to do, is fix that backup script. So at this point, we've solved problems that we had coming in. We fixed the problems that Ubuntu gave us. The interface is similar enough that, that's not a problem. And we've gotten some kind of fix, we've made pretty good progress on the new things that we found with Linux Mint that weren't working. The suspend problem, the menu problem, the fans. I expect that I'm going to need to look into the fan issue some more. I'm considering the possibility that I may try some mechanical approaches to try and quiet the fans. I've sometimes had good luck by opening those fans up and dropping in a little HD30 motor oil.
In the BIOS, after just keep fan speed up in the BIOS. Or you set it to medium instead of auto.
I didn't see anything like that.
Okay. I just didn't know. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, I didn't see anything on these systems. So, having gotten this far and having decided, okay, we're going to keep going forward, what was next? Well, the existing system has been around for quite a while, so I wanted to do something to make sure that I picked up at least most of the packages that were currently installed on the old system and had those on the new. So there's a program called DevOrphan, which has its usual use looking at looking for library packages that are no longer in use on a system that uses the different package system. But you can adapt that, okay, and tell it to look at all of the packages. So typically, if you have other packages which have nothing that depends on them, they may be actually, like some package sitting at the top of the tree, like OpenOffice, say. All right? So what I did was to get a list of those packages that had nothing that depends on them, the old system, the new system, do a diff, get a list, run down that list, and install anything that struck me as, oh yeah, I need to install that one, yeah, I need to install that one. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to get most of them, and the cataloger is certainly capable of pulling in a few new packages if necessary. Overall, overall it's looking good. I haven't finished this project yet, but it looks like soon it's going to work.
I'm sorry, I don't understand this DevOrphan
Oh,
process.
It's just
First and second line actually look identical except
so the first line you run on the old system, the second line you run on the new system.
it's just basically doing a diff between the package list on two systems.
Well, the fact of where it was run was missing.
Right. And,
I understood it.
well, and the other thing is, by using DevOrphan, you're taking out all the packages which have something to do with it. Okay, so the idea was, find all the stuff that's sort of at the top of these dependency trees, because those, well, they could be orphaned packages, which is what this is really built to look for, or they could be things like LibreOffice, Vim, so forth, that kind of stuff. And so what I was looking for was the things I put on the old system that I wanted to get onto the new system that didn't get picked up as far as part of the default install. So, for example, Perl documentation, because the cataloger will occasionally write short scripts in Perl to automate shorts. Stuff like that.
that was the key thing that failed on this old system, new system.
Guess you could use that to slim down your system if you wanted to.
Well, that is in fact what it's really intended for.
Try that. I use Orphaner all the time, and it gets rid of the ones that are really orphaned, but this other where you get the top ones, and you can say, well, I don't use that, I don't use that, I don't use that.
Right. Anyway, the man page is reasonably descriptive.
I'll read it.
And told me what to do. I guess one of the other things that I failed to talk about, in terms of like, one of the things I guess I didn't mention in terms of like why Mint is a candidate. Because of my experience supporting doing server support for Debian servers, I've got a lot of experience with the Debian package system. And so, from my point of view, it was desirable to pick up a system that uses Debian packages, because that part of its plumbing would be something that I'm already strong in. Other questions?
Ken, why did you look at the Mint compared to the Cinnamon?
Oh,
I mean the Mate.
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 Stupid.
You're
burned
Mate.
2 DVDs,
Understand.
one of each. I started with Cinnamon, and it seemed to be good enough. And this is one of those. This is a project which I have to get done, but I have a lot of other things on my list. So, good enough is good enough.
For the benefit of the class, can you describe the difference between Cinnamon and Mate?
That would be
Super
wonderful.
Stan?
I know a couple of them.
Don, you want to go for it?
Just one thing in particular is down on the bottom where it lists what things you have running.
Mm-hmm.
It doubles them up if you're over 36 bits high. And I like that, so you can have a whole bunch of them running all at the same time.
That's quite a feature to pick an operating system up with. Jump on it, Stan.
Mate was based on a fork of GNOME 2.8, I believe it was. So they picked up most of the features they already had there. And that is, I find that it's more akin to, or more similar to a Windows XP for new users than the Cinnamon. It can be a little bit of a preference.
So
more than anything.
what's the problem with the Cinnamon then? Is it just layout?
The layout, yeah. And the layout looked too much, to me, it looked too much like the Unity garbage.
Well, I used Windows for the last year, and it was the first time in my life I've used it for work, period.
Yeah.
So, to me, I think Windows is weird.
It's frustrating. I worked on a security project in DC for 6 weeks, and I had to go from using Linux since 1998 to Windows 7, or I forget whatever. Yeah, Windows 7 Pro. I thought I was going to die. Everything was so slow.
Mm-hmm.
Everything I did took me twice as long.
Well, I guess from my perspective, the Cinnamon looks close enough to the Ubuntu stuff. The cataloger has been using Linux pretty much exclusively for 14, 15 years.
It's kind of interesting the way Linux Mint is doing it with the Cinnamon. It's good. I see a lot of good things there, and then they did the Mate thing. I thought it was great. For me, the flow was just picked up right where before they screwed up everything in GNOME. And if you, how much support they're going to give to it, it's questionable. But I like it more than the I could switch over to that much easier than I could if I had to go to Unity or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
The difference between the if you want to go back to that initial slide where you listed the Linux Mint 17 long-term support and the others, I can tell you some of the differences there and what they're going about. And the reason you got 100 or you got such a large update was that all those updates, there were about 142 updates after you did the first install. Those were all the patches they did from the time that they did the release candidate to they went final. Essentially, they just said that what they had was good and just download all the updates. So they didn't really repackage I don't think they really repackaged the Linux Mint 17 from final from the release candidate. I think they just kind of renamed it.
This slide.
Yeah. You got Debian Mate listed there. They also have what's called a Linux Mint Debian edition, and the release on that. Essentially, they do a what they call a semi-rolling release, and they're up to release 8 at this point. And a lot of their major releases are only, from what I've seen of it, they only do those releases, other than a few things, annually. They started out, they were going to say it's going to be a rolling release, and they were going to do it much more frequently than that, but they stopped because of the workload. But I like that because about the only thing they update on it is security things and Firefox and Thunderbird. And a lot of the other stuff they don't update on the Debian edition. Now I've used the Debian edition and I've also got the 17 long support edition, but I prefer that Mate. I've looked at the XFCE and the KDE, and if that's what you want, that's fine. A friend of mine, I started them out using the 17 release candidate, and then he found the XFC on his own, or not the XFC, the KDE, and he thought it was great until he ran into some layout problems in the structure of where things were located. And so he gone back to the 17 long-term support. The long-term support is based on, except for the Linux Mint unique things, it's based on the Ubuntu long-term support. What is it, 14, whatever it is, it just came out?
Yeah.
So it's going to have a lot of frequent updates. And
right, but
and for new users, that can be a little disheartening or confusing, because a lot of new users, newcomers to Linux are coming from Windows XP world. They don't really understand updates. A lot of them just turn it on automatically and never even see it. And the updating process is a little more in your face, and it comes up with the update manager because it pops up and the new thing that lists the security updates and the things that have been tested by Linux Mint and the things that should not be a problem. The 1, 2s, and 3s. The 3s are green. They shouldn't be a problem, And that's, you have to sit down and explain that to them.
right, and that may take 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like I say, the cataloger has a long history of using Linux, so.
I've been kicking around with the Debian edition, and because it was the concept of rolling release, once you install it, you never have to install it again. Well, the Linux Mint 17 based on the Ubuntu 17, it's going to be on the same thing with the long-term support. Come the end of life of that, which is what, 2019 or something like that? 17. At that point, then you'll have to they'll stop the support, and then you'll have to do the new install. Whereas a rolling release, the idea is you install it once and it'll just keep going. But with the risk of the Debian stuff, if you might break something, but
Well, what they use Debian testing, isn't it?
yeah.
Well, right.
Who runs Debian stable?
On servers, you bet.
I run testing on everything.
Right in the fast lane, I guess.
Well, no, Debian development and Debian testing are what the world calls stable. But in Debian land, they have two definitions for stable. They have put it on the space station stable, and put it on your mom's desktop stable.
Yeah.
So they have a different definition of stable.
Yeah, well, you know, I've really enjoyed the fact that, you know, the Debian systems I have, they're running Debian stable,
Mhm.
just keep working.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Mhm.
So, you know.
But it's all going on to the rolling update thing. The concept of updating from major distro version to major distro version is something that Debian's been doing for more than a decade, and few other OSs have even attempted this. But you can literally jump versions and basically bootstrap yourself up. And I've done that quite often on live systems too. You know, you have a live web server, you got 2,000 users on it, and you just basically bootstrap library C, then pull in the new kernel, and then pull in your new package manager, and just basically have it cycle through. And you can have a brand new updated system without affecting your users, other than maybe which are hopefully quick.
But the whole concept, the rolling release concept intrigued me, so I dived right into the Debian edition, and it wasn't quite what I thought it would be. I like it, but I'm not sure that it's what a newcomer to Linux would want to use. But I do think the Linux Mint 17 based on the Ubuntu long-term support, I think that's a way for newcomers to use, because if they start now, by the time they get there, they won't really have any problems.
My mom runs Debian testing.
And as far as I've always found that with Linux, the testing stuff and the beta stuff, it's good. I've never run across a real problem with it.
Well, there have been some major issues, and I think the benefit is like, for example, my mom, we don't update that one but once a month. So that's actually very convenient. It's these daily package updates. You know, I do 50 some package updates a day. But I'm bleeding edge on everything, so that's also very convenient.
It all depends on what you're running too. How many?
Well, but if you're writing software and you're trying to bring software forward and stuff, you have to have that, you know, level. So I mean, like right now I'm converting a project from Python 2.4 all the way up through Python 3.6 at the moment, or 3.4 at the moment, and I need that range of libraries, which no other distro can do at the moment.
And you're saying that is Debian?
Yeah, this is Debian SID. You would yeah, I think it's advertised as Jesse at the moment. But SID
is up. SID is unstable.
well, no, Jesse's the release name. SID is like a synonym to testing, and they continue to use that forever. So some people just do that in their configurations. They set their system to SID, so they never even have to worry about what a release is. They just keep rocking and rolling for like a decade.
Okay.
And actually, SID has been named for about 15 years now.
But I'm just curious how you would manage those libraries.
We manage libraries.
In other words, if you need Python 2.4, and then you need Python 2.6, then you need Python 3.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you saying you replace them and update them, or you saying you have them all?
They're all installed at the exact same time right now. So,
and so how do you figure out which one you're using?
for my testing, I actually use the standard, which is to have Python, and then the version number. The major versions are the end of the executable, so you can actually source them directly.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and the Python executable for the entire system is just a symlink, so you can change it on the fly.
And then they're set up to load whatever libraries they want, .8, you know, .18s, .20s, whatever. And so they're rigged just separately.
Do we have any more wonderful questions for Ken? Any hard questions? Easy questions? What desktop did you put on the workstation, Ken? What background picture?
Oh, it's like a blue ocean wave-ish picture. Um, you know, I
You didn't put,
I consulted with the cataloger and they pointed.
See,
you didn't put this with XP,
sometimes the background's everything.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a calm view. I mean, I was just being facetious, but no, it's a good point. Did you have any hardware issues other than, see, the Core 2 Duo with that Dell, the SMB bus, so the temperature controllers, the fan controllers? Did you install the SMB libraries for those, or yeah, SMB bus?
Haven't done that.
Okay.
Maybe that will help.
Yeah, they have some really crazy, basically they put a separate controller just for all that stuff on there. Those the Core 2 series had a bunch of stuff on the North Bridge and on the processor, and then they came through and they had a bunch of legacy stuff with, controlling the fans, the speed, and the temperature controllers. So, for example, on all my ThinkPads, they have a very nice temperature controller, but it's too smart, and sometimes you have to sit there and argue with it because it tells you your battery's going to last 4 minutes when the fact is that you're just moving around. So it's pretty interesting. Sometimes you have to learn the translation. So, for example, some of the bad controllers, and when I say bad, I just mean that they present their data in a different way. So they'll present their temperature with a decimal point in the wrong place. And you sit there and have to put a command to divide it or multiply it to make any sense out of it.
As an aside, I've been reading the documentation for VirtualBox, the latest version, and they give a lot of information about the standard drivers that they use, and they explain you have to watch out for with other drivers. And I can't remember all the different things, but it seems like they give you some clues that would have helped with Ken's problem and which could lead to the fact that you could install the new NVIDIA driver.
Right, and one of the problems, paravirtualization brings in this situation where your system's operating and it may not get all the timing ticks it expects, and it may get really strange hardware that doesn't understand what to do. But some of the benefits is I've actually helped a friend do this with several universities in South America, is setting up Linux on all of the desktops, 1,000 of them or so, and then literally just booting their Windows workstations as an image. They were actually able to speed up the systems. So they had a standard Linux install, and whenever the system booted up, Windows was immensely fast. So fast, they called us in for a special meeting to ask what we did. And it just turned out that we weren't installing the NVIDIA Windows driver, which makes the NVIDIA Linux driver look like, the UN. I mean, the Linux NVIDIA driver is very proprietary. However, it is very kind of open in what it does, its APIs and stuff like that. The Windows driver wants to, change your browser bar. I mean, it wants to do everything. So just by removing those aspects and just giving it a 2D rendering system, we were able to speed up all the workstations across their universities. So.
One of the things that occurs to me now, one of the things that I did, coming into this, was to poke around looking for, Linux Mint documentation, and there is an introductory document that's available at the project website, and here's how you get it installed, and here's how you operate the system in a basic way. And it looked like it would probably be useful if you were coming to Linux Mint for the first time. There is not much for Linux Mint that's available beyond that I found. On the other hand, underneath it's Ubuntu or Debian, and there are lots of resources available on those systems and on how they work. There's some really great Debian books.
So,
So that's maybe something, maybe something to be aware of if you're going to set this up for somebody. They're not going to see like the obvious path. If they're the sort of person who likes to use books, they're not going to find like the obvious path to go forward in their knowledge about this system. They're going to have to like go off to the side a little bit to get it.
I've seen a lot of distributions, they have YouTube channels now, and they just like have YouTube videos of how to do this and that. And a lot of people that search the internet, they're searching for something, and they see the little video in the search results, and they're like, I'm not looking for a video, I'm looking for how to do this. And that is what the video was for, and they just kind of blow right past it. And that's kind of it. But one of the things, I did bring in the Debian book a few months ago. Debian has a 500-page book. They're translating into almost every language they support on their operating system. Completely free to browse online and download the PDF. And you can also order it as a solid, physical, tangible item. Just search for Debian Handbook if you want. It does cover everything pretty generically, so it doesn't matter what distribution you're using. It'll cover some simple things.
Do you think that would be a good book for a beginner to Debian?
I think it'd be a good book for every Linux person because it's free, it's up to date, and they're going to keep it up to date forever because it's part of the project now. So it's like having a book as part of your Linux distro. It's kind of a neat idea.
And it's called
Debian Handbook. Anything else for Super Ken? Want to take a few-minute break and a few minutes of a break and let Lee and Don get set up, and we can chit-chat and talk about cats.
You be able to get it working, Don?
No.
My network already stopped.
Benjamin Franklin? His biography, what was it called? It was the Book of Farts.
Oh,
We may be in a world of hurt unless we can get a
And they're all different
network
footprints.
connection.
yeah, I've had this problem before.
And I found when the
I've got a link like, but I won't prompt that.
Carter
Right, well, I can't get out from here to the network.
and the Gutenberg.
And gave me an IP, but
It was written.
Yeah.
John Carter of Mars science fiction was written by Edgar Rice Burroughs.
I
At
can't
the
get
same
here to
time, he
Wi-Fi.
did Tarzan in 1919. That first book was absolutely one of the best science fiction books I have ever read. 1919, John Carter of Mars.
I've been reading stuff.
That's a good movie, too.
Yeah.
I've been reading stuff by Arthur Conan Doyle.
Yeah.
And he has a bunch of stuff that is not Sherlock Holmes that is actually quite fascinating. Actually, there's somewhere, there's a character who, it sounds like Holmes kind of drifts in and doesn't take the case and leaves the story.
So some items of interest. Next Tuesday, we have Stan's meeting of the Hazelwood Lug. Are you going to be able to make it to it? Okay. So everybody should go up to Hazelwood and bother Stan and help him support everybody. Let's see. And then next Thursday is a meeting I'm very interested in. I'm taking a big part of is the DevOps group here in St. Louis.
And contrary to Google, Andrew assures us there's actually a building there to go to.
Very nice building, yes. It's actually at a web design company in down on Lafayette.
Are you sure that's on Thursday?
Yeah, because I added it to the calendar.
That they had a big lottery, and that's exactly true.
Yeah, I talked with Julie about it. So.
Everyone here aware of our calendar?
Actually, the calendar has been a fun item of discussion. At the DevOps meeting, they were marveling at the, what would we have, 180 in May?
Something like that. 187, I think it was.
face-to-face meetings. However, I did realize that the Drupal meeting was duplicated, which I resolved that, but I added the DevOps meeting, so it was a wash. Let's see, anything else fun going on? But yeah, there's fun stuff to do there all the time. I even noticed there were some golf outings and stuff out here. So.
I didn't add those.
The black data processing.
Oh, it's right there.
Ah,
social
okay,
thing was a golf
okay.
game, so.
Now I see why I was confused.
Does their calendar start on Saturday?
The DevOps meetings are being organized through Meetup.
Mhm.
Everybody familiar with Meetup.com? Okay.
We're looking for a volunteer.
So I got a Meetup message
Mhm.
which says, "We have a winner. The most popular evening selected in our official poll was the fourth Wednesday of the month."
Oh yeah, Joey made a mistake. Yeah.
And at that point, I stopped reading. Well, it says right there, fourth Wednesday. But I see in the other part of the meeting, it actually, of that message, it does say Thursday. So, really Thursday,
Really Thursday.
not Wednesday.
Scott, you making a comment?
Okay, great.
Will that share network connection? Your network? My Wi-Fi is down,
My Wi-Fi is down.
and Don's just died.
Oh, the trick with the Wi-Fi here is they don't give a DNS server on release.
Why did it always hold up before?
They will always work before, every time.
I never get DNS here.
I just got in.
I've never had a problem.
I mean, it was working half an hour ago, and then his machine blew up.
Now I see no DNS servers. That's interesting.
Put in 8888, see if it'll work.
Yeah, the location. Oh, I just got it wrong.
How many of you guys have used Linux Mint so far? Testing, playing? I mean, Stan uses it all the time.
Yeah, I do. I have the last one. I'm using the last one that was based on a Ubuntu LTS version. And I'll probably, when the KDE comes out, or I'm not sure whether it'll be the XCFE or the KDE when it comes out of release candidate, I'll take one of those and install it.
So there's a fun topic. How many of you guys are GNOME people? Yeah. How many KDE?
Sort of semi.
Been KDE since 1998, I guess.
XFCE?
And XFCE, we got some people, of course. Yes, yes. Any other environments anyone enjoys? Mate is GNOME or
It's no.
it's GNOME? Yeah.
Yes.
Ice is nice.
I don't.
Hmm?
You know, you're not getting Wi-Fi? Well, that's encouraging, too. Feel less likely to.
Never mind the DNS server. I'm not getting connected.
I'm getting solid connection. I just can't connect to anything.
Can you ping anything?
Well, give me something to ping.
4.2.2.2. Yeah, that's connected here. All right. Connected here, and so is my phone. Are you leaving us? We're boring, guys.
All the good stuff that comes out.
See you next month.
Okay, Val. Thanks for coming. How about you, Andrew? Can you share a network on your laptop?
What do you need to do?
I need a network connection. Wire.
Maybe.
Making a lot of sense. I got 10-foot crossover.
I'm thinking about my bridges. Oh.
Make some close. Push it in a foot.
Hmm?
That
that would make it.
Let me see here. Well, I am live recording here, so we'll try not to.
Okay. Well,
You for sure? You're online?
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's just slow today. Let's see what it's looking like here today. Oh, it's Uverse. Woohoo! Hold on. I'm going to turn on a.
oh, we got another box here. We can try if you don't want to ask it.
Or you just want to share? What's going on here?
Yeah, I just need raw traffic.
Okay.
There was a kernel update on this thing about 6 months ago. They killed my Wi-Fi, and so I just started running the older kernel, and now neither one of them works. No carrier. No light.
Give it a moment.
Oh, yeah. You gotta like it.
Oh, it's on track.
Oh.
Are you sure you want to do it? Yeah. Hit the other keys.
Are you sure you're sure?
Sure, I'm sure. That should work out. Okay, I got a 2.2. Okay, bingo, we're in. Thank you, sir.
Your camera's shooting laptop.
No.
Okay, let me know when we're ready.
Oh, I didn't. I think I'm ready.
I was waiting for our blessing from my grandfather.
Oh no! I'm just giving everybody a moment to chew down the rest of this candy before I have any more. It looks like we have somebody snuck in. Get a chance to sign your life away?
I might.
You might. We gotta keep stealing. So any other stuff to discuss from today? I see everybody's got this Debian Administrator Handbook. Did you download the PDF already?
Well, I'm not gonna download it over their Wi-Fi. I mean, everybody in the room is downloading it on their Wi-Fi.
It's not bad.
That would be funny though.
92 pages?
Yes. Everybody download it.
Let's see what else. Anything else? Let's see. For our lovely meetings next week, and then on looks like what do we have? July the 1st. Is that the steering committee?
Yeah, I do.
Or, no, Monday. I'm sorry, which is June the 30th is the SteerCom meeting, which I may be out of the state, but all of you guys should come to the steering committee meeting and volunteer to do stuff. It's the first Monday before, a week before or more of the
It's the
general
Monday
meeting.
the week before the general meeting.
Uh-huh.
And you have a royal system. Exactly.
And we made that change. And we made that change for Gary to go to the conference in the summer.
Yeah, I don't understand some of you guys. So, I mean, you guys, do you really have lives?
What's a life in
Yeah, sort of.
Okay. So yeah, steering committee is it's very useful if you come on and just even to hang out and help, because sometimes we need some help brainstorming to figure out what could be a topic.
Speaking of which, is there a topic for this meeting next month?
There are some that are under discussion, and if you volunteer to do one, it will go to the top.
I think I should take a month off.
Really? I've said that a few times too myself. But it didn't work out.
You got this month off.
I did. I know. I'm happy. I'm ecstatic.
All right, then. All right.
But
Well-
just so we know the pricing structure, how much did he pay you to set up that customer? Nah, never mind.
Doesn't matter. Real question.
Always need a straight man in the audience.
So, and Gary should be doing the next Unix presentation. Is that right?
Yeah.
Should be, but.
And now that Super Don's back, I mean, you can do your presentations. So yeah, we can always use some presentations. Don't be shy. Jump up. Dave Forrest, it took a little bit of arm twisting to get him to do the IPv6 talk, but I think it was well worth it because I think he had a really fun time. And I think he enjoyed contributing to the community instead of just showing up and leeching. Well, are you guys about ready, or? Well, without any further ado, we have Lee and Don, and they're going to do a horse and pony show and show us OpenSUSE.
Cool. Little bit of background. Years ago, about 5 years ago, when we started switching to Unity, I gave up on it. I mean, they were just throwing so much garbage out there. I looked for something better. At the time, I had a couple of objectives. I wanted to find a clean distro that was possibly isolated from the evil DRM doers in Hollywood and various places, and was also better engineered. I started using SUSE. SUSE actually has a commercial side that used to be owned by Novell. Novell was purchased by Attachmate 2.5, 3 years ago, and they've now reshuffled the division, so Novell and SUSE are peers now, instead of Novell owning SUSE. They're both still owned by Attachmate, but SUSE is now an independent, separate company. They don't report to Novell anymore. Novell uses their product for their system, but there's no line of reporting, because when Novell bought SUSE, they were really kind of without a focus for a couple of years. But then when Attachmate came along, they got smart. They said, well, SUSE is a standalone business because they have a totally commercial offering. And Novell can go off and do their thing with your audience, but not interfere or detract from the SUSE world. In fact, at the SUSE lunch, there has been quite a few presentations on really cool commercial products. They both are, the way it works in the SUSE world, if you want to try something, you got 60 days to try it with support. You can keep using it after 60 days if you want to. It's not going to time bomb on you, but you no longer get support and you no longer get updates. So you can build a production system on sleds, or sled rather, Enterprise Linux 11 Service Pack 3, and use it for 10 years without ever paying a nickel. But you won't get support and you won't get updates past 60 days. So it's kind of a unique philosophy. There is a downside to that, however. The open source side, which is OpenSUSE, is always bleeding edge, although it is fairly stable. And they have anywhere from an 8-month to 1.5 year time frame. 12.1 came out about 3 years ago, then 12.2, then 12.3, 13.1 came out last year, and the 12 branch is not being updated, not being supported. If you try to enter trouble tickets against the version 12 system, somehow give you a snarky reply, might use a supported district. It's because of that, you're always staying current. Upgrades are simple. You can do them online. You can do a distribution update with the package manager. I've done it on 8 or 10 systems in the last few years. Only one of them had a problem, and that's a video problem. Sometimes the video drivers will change and cause problems.
And Wi-Fi drivers. And Wi-Fi drivers?
and Wi-Fi drivers. I don't remember what the problem was, but it didn't seem like worth troubleshooting at the time. I just backed up the previous release. But all of a sudden today, it's not working. I don't know what
It's Murphy's Law.
happened. Really. But anyway, 13.1 is the current version. The other thing that attracted me to SUSE when I was searching around looking for a place to land was the fact that it was clean slate design and it didn't carry any baggage from old versions of XP, menu systems, stuff like that. Just as a quick intro, sort of a clean slate design. There's no CRUD on your desktop unless you want it. You can throw anything you want to there, but you don't have to. The menu system, as of 4 years ago, was GNOME 3. It's quite a bit different than the previous world. You don't have a menu tab or anything. You have an activities tab, or you just bump the top corner of the screen. Come on, bump for me. And it'll come up. The left-hand side over there are your favorites. Yeah, you maintain. All right, so you maintain them in a list. And you can remove something from favorites. You can find favorites.
You start out with a list of favorites, and you can get rid of the ones you don't like.
Right, or add the ones you did. And if you want a different program, simple idea. What's it called? Notice that it does associations for you. The first one I typed was GIMP. There is a program called GIMP, so it shows it to you. You can type JPEG if I type it right, and it will try to find you something that is a JPEG. I typed text before. I don't have any latex tool on here, but I have gedit and LibreOffice Writer. To me, that's kind of nice. I don't like pawing through menus. If I want something, I know what I want. I'll type a word and go for it. And guess what happened about 2 years ago? Windows 8 copied the same scheme. So when I sat down in front of a Windows 8 system, it took me about 30 seconds to figure out what to do, not how to do it. So in some degree, being if you have to live in both worlds, staying with current GNOME keeps you somewhere in the right ballpark for other updated distros.
And you do have the option of KDE drivers.
Yes, you can install KDE if you want. You can install XFCE, and there's probably 4 or 5 others on the install. If Don can get his machine working, we're going to do an install here at the end. But I don't know if that's going to happen. So, you can download the US, download an ISO. There is a neat tool called Image Writer. Maybe I don't have it on me. But there's a neat tool called Image Writer you can use to build a USB stick from an ISO. It's a built-in package. Speaking of which, if you want to find a package, for some reason, Zipper just falls to the fingers, sort of like Yum does. But it's faster than Yum because if you think about it, the keys you're typing are opposite hands, opposite fingers, not same finger, same hand. So I think of Yum as, or Zipper as being as fast to type as Yum. If I want to install Image Writer, install it. Standard package manager, but one of the nice things is everything's Zipper. Like in Debian, you got 5 or 6 different tools. You got dpackage, you got apt-get, you got aptitude, and probably some other managers right integrated. And you've got some dpackage tools under the covers. It is RPM based, by the way, standard RPM. But everything you can do everything in Zipper. You only have to learn one command string.
No PS with the right away.
Say again?
PS with the right away.
Do what?
Zipper PDF. In other words, it'll show you when you do an update with Zipper.
Oh, yeah. If you're doing an update, it will tell you what programs are running that need to be restarted because some component they use has been updated. And which is kind of cool. Nothing's that critical to me. I just usually ignore it. You know, it's not that big a deal. You know, nothing's going to crash. You're not going to kill anything if you don't restart your program for the update to take effect. But it will be nice and tell you what's running that uses the library that has been updated. The same thing with zipper update. What we got there? 37 meg. You say I won't run through it. No, but again, it works just like any package manager. There also are GUI tools. Install or remove software. Again, bump the top right corner, package.
They still refer to it as gas.
No, zipper.
No, I'm talking.
Oh yeah, yes, we'll get to it in a minute. This is the GUI tool. You can do it from the command line. You can do it from the GUI tool, or I'll show you one of my secret recipes here in a few minutes. So yeah, again, standard package. Now, since Jerry mentioned it, my favorite tool in the SUSE world, and one that made about 80% of the decision for me when I picked the distro 5 years ago, was yet another setup tool. Well, YAS. YAS gives you a ncurses shell tool to manage 80% of your system. If you want to go in and change network settings, you go to network devices, network settings, launch the tool. I never have to touch a config file.
You don't have to go in GUI mode if you're on.
And I don't have to go in GUI mode. I can SSH in from anywhere in the world to do this. I can maintain. I'll show you one here later on if we have time. You know, the network manager is a default tool. So here's what's running. I've got. I'm not sure why that's blanked out. But you can change all your settings. I'm gonna have to update this thing up. I fix it. You know, host name, domain name. You know, set your route for DHCP. Maybe that's why it's doing it. Yeah, we set for DHCP. And it looks like I have a Zen install here because I've got a bridge on it. DR0. Anyway, one of the other neat things is security and users. If you want to manage users, is it add user or user add? I don't want to use no stinking GUI. Just use the user tool in the end. Define groups for a user. It's not a default for new users. That's it. Once you edit, details, I can do all the user definition here. And to me, it's a lot easier to go in here and say, what groups is this person in? Well, let's see. Let me get over here. Additional groups. I can scan down. Guess I don't have any. No.
Come on, jump in the wheel group.
Yeah, I should have been in the wheel group. You know, but you can manage all your users that way. And you don't have to worry about a config file or etc password or etc group at all. Now, to me, this is worth its weight in gold, especially when I'm looking at a machine that's somewhere else. Go to one of our servers in the shop. Go to one of the servers downtown. I've got the same capability on a remote machine. No GUI, no port forwarding, all you need is shell access. And if you don't have shell access, I gave a presentation a couple years ago about how to set up reverse tunnels and gain shell access to any machine you want, Windows, Linux, or Mac. We've got probably, this will be deja vu for Jerry. He built a lot of this a couple years ago. How many we got running here? 47.
So is that you want to reverse tunnel?
All these reverse tunnels.
Built into the.
No. This is how I get shell access to a remote machine if it's not publicly visible.
And then once you have shell access, you can run YAST on the Windows machine and adjust its configuration.
If it's a Linux box.
If it's a Linux box. If it's a Cygwin box, then you can use whatever tools are in Cygwin.
Anybody ever seen a command prompt without a clear command?
Mm-hmm.
Where?
Quite a few, actually.
I've never seen one on Linux.
Sorry?
I've never seen one on Linux.
They were talking about taking it out of the boot.
Just what's your environment shell? Just do an ENV. What's your
No,
environment?
but not Linux. I'm saying Windows is the only system I've not seen it clear.
Okay.
This is a Cygwin.
Yeah, this is a Windows machine. This is a Cygwin.
You get like, I think Tom's root boot had no clear.
Okay.
I mean,
CLS.
clear screen was DOS.
Yeah, CLS was DOS.
Well, you've got DOS command
Yeah.
under Cygwin, but CLS doesn't work either. Anyway, I haven't seen one, and I didn't buy. It's not a big deal. I don't care.
Well, what the default shell could be set to something that doesn't support that. So, for example, if you're setting up a Git server and it has a Git shell for people to log in and access,
Yeah.
the commands
Yeah.
are so limited that you can't do anything.
Okay.
This is a bash.
This is standard bash under Cygwin.
Well, yeah. What's your ENV though?
Doesn't have anything special.
I was just looking for what the shell is right there. Bin bash. Okay.
Bin bash.
There you go.
You know, again, the whole key to doing this is shell access, and I live at a shell probably 80% of the time. In fact, I do email sometimes because it's the quickest way to do it. I don't need a client, I don't need to download anything, I just SSH in, and I can do, until I get about 50 or 60 emails in my inbox, then I launch the client and file them away. Okay, any questions on the basic UI? Anybody want to see anything? In general, activities are here at the top left. Oh, desktops. This is the other thing I like. I've got this thing to start up 8 desktops by default. And and this also is the Windows key. It brings up your, what do they call it, Andy? Do you know?
I'm sorry? I don't have a Windows key on my laptop.
No, I mean, what do they call this screen?
That? It's just the desktop selection. I only have 4 on this one. But
What are you asking?
Is there a name for this screen?
When you get the activities.
Default desktop?
No.
no. In X Windows, the extra screen spaces are.
Okay.
It's got a name, and we probably already said it
The
once.
workspace, the number of workspaces.
Well, but this isn't
Pane.
pane, but this pane shows your favorites on the left, a miniature view of all your workspaces on the right, and then allows you to search for something if you start typing. And I just, I've gotten used to it. One key, click on the desktop I want.
The mode.
Sorry?
Mode switch, whatever.
Mode switch.
It makes it really easy to manage mobile desktop. I've always got 5 or 6 phones. I've got one for email, and basic shell, another one for browser, and then I'm into my shell prompts. A couple, just I pulled up the screen. If you ever want to play with GNOME 3, there was something that drove me fruit for the first day. When you do Alt-Tab, it shows all applications running on all desktops. And when you do an Alt-Tab, it'll switch you to that application, even if it's not on the current desktop, current workspace. So Alt-Tab Workspace here is an extension I found 4 years ago. Right. So when you do Alt-Tab, you're only Alt-Tabbing on that workspace, in this workspace. It doesn't go to another workspace unless you pick one.
Now that's a browser plugin. Or no?
No, it's a GNOME plugin.
Okay.
It's a GNOME extension. Right. And let's see if I turn on JavaScript. We can actually enable and disable it right here from the web page. And there are a lot of them. It's on. If I want to turn it off, okay, I'm going to change it back to now. Okay. I may have to log out to turn it on. I know when I turn it on, it's immediate. But then when you do an Alt-Tab, you will get windows from other workspaces. How many of you use more than one workspace? Okay, so it's not that uncommon. It really amazes me when I see somebody else working in a Windows environment, and they got like 20 windows on their desk, and they're always trying to talk through and find, they got 2 or 3 for doing this, 2 or 3 for doing that, 4 or 5 for doing something else. To me, the workspace concept is critical. I mean, I don't see how anybody can do without it.
As long as you're asking about workspaces, how many people use GNOME
We asked this earlier. About a third of us used KDE, and the rest are GNOME or XFCEs.
There's a lot of people that are coming from previous distros and upgrade, want to stay with KDE because there's very minor changes. Again, until Ubuntu 3 Unity, which has never even worked right, in my estimation. It was a precursor to some of the GNOME 3 stuff.
Yeah. My desktop config hasn't changed in 15 years.
Yeah.
What?
My desktop configuration.
Using KDE?
Yeah.
What did Carl used to complain about changing KDE?
The plasma display stuff can be turned off.
No, he had it where he could
Yeah,
launch,
it's like
he could launch terminals.
Conqueror.
That was Conqueror?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All I know is he drove me crazy.
Is he using it as a web or as a phone?
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything?
It's Dolphin now, but yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, he got an update, all of a sudden everything was broken. It sent him to the roof.
The other thing that has matured in the last couple of years is a build service from SUSE. You can log on to their website, build an ISO for installing your project. Or you can go out and find a project that somebody else built and use it.
What's that, build your own appliance?
Build your own project. Doesn't have to be appliance.
It's an ISO customizer.
It's a customized.
So
ISO.
it's just like HP service, Debian service.
Like Fedora respins, I guess.
What's the version for
Like a Fedora respin.
Okay. I've never used.
I understand Europe has a great in doing it.
Did anyone count the character? Did anyone count the characters?
In the room or on?
I typed too fast for that.
Hmm? I counted 9.
I've got one I built a long time ago.
Somebody closed it?
Yeah, somebody did it. I've got, you can have gallery, you can shared build, you can have private build. I did this thing for Solo a long time ago. I did a Samba Fortet server a long time ago. Or you can go out and search the gallery. There's thousands of them out there.
They also have an RPM.
Yeah, they might. Interesting, on cloud in the box.
Mm-hmm.
I might grab that this way instead of building myself.
This is something you can also do with Docker now too, which is extremely fun. Is just like SUSE's build server here, which is awesome, is you can not only find something neat, but you can also share with everybody.
Oh, here we go. Docker machine. Docker build.
Is that like you're in the Matrix now?
And he even rate them, and this guy got 5 stars with 1 rate.
It must have been his brother-in-law.
Mom.
His mom likes it.
All right. What am I forgetting, you guys that use SUSE? Can you do it?
Well, I just need the network connection. And
Any other questions? I'll turn it over to Don and do a quick install for you.
Is this in a VM now?
in a VM. And it's the network install, so that once we get started, it'll be in the network.
Oh, I thought you downloaded the image.
I downloaded the network image. Doesn't download as fast.
Well, you just don't pick a lot of stuff to install.
Oh, I don't. I don't pick anything.
Give it a minute.
Okay. Image in the correct bin.
Mm-hmm.
Thing working?
I missed Canadian piece of junk Mac again.
Are you using VirtualBox?
I've never had a problem with it before. Something like that.
There we go.
That goes okay.
No, give it a moment.
There. Had to do source detect. Okay. All right, so we have VirtualBox, and we're going to create a new VM. And I have had not good trouble if I use too little RAM.
Quantify that?
They recommend 512 meg, and it just doesn't seem to be enough. Like every time I try that, it just crashes.
It's just not fair. I mean, really.
Mm-hmm.
In these days and ages, why give it 512?
Yeah.
Oh, don't forget, I got some notes on 13.2 on that one.
Okay, and start it. Is everybody familiar with VirtualBox? You know what I'm doing?
Everybody nuts and laying it.
Okay. I have just specified what kind of computer I want it to run on, and now I get to go find the ISO that I want to boot from.
Everywhere boldest device so you found.
The ISO I have downloaded it. And now it is starting up. And here we have essentially what you would see.
I'll not move the cursor again.
Inside that window is essentially what you would see on your display. We're booting from a virtual CD, which is a lot faster than real CD.
Will that
So what are the significance of the three different colors?
He could have chose,
fancy graphics?
he could have chose what resolution he wanted.
Yeah, there is a default resolution setting on in the preferences.
That looks like 600.
And I think it's 600 by 480.
Actually, I think your presentation screen is not at the high resolution of your projector.
Okay, so it does it automatically based on what SUSE thinks is a good size.
Down. The projector is operating at a lower resolution at the moment.
Oh, okay.
Then you should be able to bump your desk.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a
Is it? There we go. What's it set to?
1920 by 1080.
Okay. That looks much better.
Okay.
Yeah, the biggest issue with the net install is you have to download six kernel components.
There, does that look better?
He's almost done.
Eventually, it'll get to the point where it's using the VirtualBox tools, and that gives you resizing where you can drag everything becomes essentially just a window like any other application.
Something I've noticed about SUSE and using it over time, and I use Red Hat as well, is as you perform updates and so forth, you move along as the build, when I say build, as it changes over 9 months, 10 months here, because it seems more stable than Red Hat. Red Hat seems to have a tendency to break things, where I think the SUSE 2 may have a slower development cycle, but it seems a little more stable. And that could be my imagination.
I'd have to agree with that. The only problem I've ever seen with updates is one time when it broke a video drive.
I had stuff break before, but I could still run where I had Red Hat break stuff where you had to start all over.
Finish the bar, and so we should get a pop-up very soon.
You got an update.
Have they come up with an upgrade path for SUSE to OpenSUSE?
Yeah. I mean, I've gone from 11 to 12 and 12 to 13.
Without having to rebuild from scratch?
Yep.
Okay.
Again, the only problem I ever had was on the video machine. On my main workstation in the office, I went from 12.2 to 12.3. I went and reinstalled 12.2.
With just the default master boot record size and all that, you didn't have to create special partitions?
No.
Okay.
Partitioning is a separate issue, especially if you're building RAID, because the last machine I built was an EFI boot, and I'll be damned if I'm going to make my 750 gigabyte drive DOS partition table. So I had to put in a 4 gig thumb drive little miniature USB drive, stick it in the back panel, and that's my DOS boot disk. Because EFI requires a DOS boot disk.
Well, you can load the keys in and not use DOS, but you have to install them in the kernel. It's kind of hard.
Okay. Well, that was how.
No, it's a very easy supportable way. What you did is very, 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 very common. It's just, it is possible to actually use Linux as the primary boot, but you have to install the key. It's annoying.
Yeah, and I even set the BIOS for legacy, but it wouldn't work.
Just me experimenting a couple of years back, I did some ways to do what's driving to see what kind of performance we can come out with. And it's quite significant. Now I need to figure out to do a 1 plus 0 or 0 plus 1
I just use the default of RAID 6.
So RAID 6 on a larger number of drives,
yeah,
it splits your writes and your reads so far apart that it does exponentially increase your speed. I've done some very, very, very large systems, and one of the biggest tricks for storage is to take your, sorry for going off topic, is to take your journaling system. So if you're using XFS, and put the journal system on. So it writes its indexes, its inode indexes, away from the RAID, doubles your speed.
Yeah.
Okay,
we're doing striping. I doubled and tripled my speed right now.
At this point, we've got the license agreement, which say we accept it. Okay. Go to the system.
And that's the big one.
This part's really not that bad. The next one is just really good.
You have to download package per package on it. Oh, okay.
Now, I'm going to say whether it's we can't update an existing system because we don't have one. We can choose other repositories, either online or from different media, and I don't have any interesting addresses for that. Choose the time zone. We're in Chicago.
I hate that.
Yeah.
There should be central time zone, not Chicago time zone.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's central time zone, same as Chicago. Yeah.
It's the largest populace in the time zone.
Mm-hmm.
How about Dallas?
Dallas.
Chicago is bigger.
Chicago's bigger.
Okay.
Okay. Do we want GNOME or KDE?
Try other.
Oh. Which one would you like?
XFCE should be the fastest.
Yeah, that's the lightest one.
Now they propose you can either use ButterFS or create an LVM-based proposal. I'm going to go with the shortest, simplest.
Edit it first. Show what it makes.
Lee,
Oh,
if you or
yeah.
Don tried any of the other file systems to see files?
I found out the hard way, if you have a 35 terabyte partition, you have to use XFS. Oh, I mean, it wasn't that hard. It was the only thing that worked.
But how performance-wise, were you satisfied with the stability?
We do have a couple machines out with BetterFS, and that's going to be the default now, 13.2.
So yeah, that's Extended 4 can address like huge petabytes of data. However, the tool chain will not do a FSCK over 16 terabyte. And so it's very funny that XFS, they made sure that their tool chain supported their features on day one, and that's why they're still kind of winning. It's because their tool chain, everything kind of worked the same on day one, so you could hit those massive limits.
BTRFS.
Yeah, and the big advantage of ButterFS, the way I understand it, is the ability to do sub-partition snapshot.
Well, a lot of people will use Lustre for smaller files. Some people use Gluster for geolocation. I mean, the features are very narrow in what you're trying to do.
Right.
Okay, here's the partitioner. and you can look at your hard disks. Your SDA shows what gives you a graphical illustration of the relative sizes. SDA 1 is your swap space. SDA 2 is your root mount point. SDA 4, SDA 3 is your home partition.
And I mean, you can build your encrypted partitions and RAID and LVMs right there in the boot. That's command line. It can be a little bit off-putting doing a RAID, but after you practice 3 or 4 times, it's actually not that hard.
Yeah, you got to pay attention to what it's showing.
Yeah.
And graphically, make sure you're doing it right.
And if you ever want to throw it away and rebuild it, I can tell you from many experiences, the first thing you do is go into your hard drive and change the partition table. Like if you want to use GPT, write a DOS partition table on it. Because he does not like to overwrite a existing partition table even if you tell him to. But if you change the partition table type, it works. Yeah, that's Gary talked about that last week.
So it's just a really nice set of controls for the partition. Shall I go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead. I just want to show them the partition. And you can access that in YAS, although you only have about a quarter of the features. There's only about a quarter of them. Again, that can change in 13.2, because 13.2 YAS is totally rewritten.
Now it says you can import a partition setup. Where do you get one to import?
Just import as a text file.
Text file.
Well, yeah, but how do you create it?
A lot of people will actually,
let you export
a
one?
lot of enterprises will actually maintain a standard, and you use that standard-wise.
Well, what I'm saying is, will this tool let you export the partition table that you can then import?
Yeah, at post-install, it should be saved. It's actually saved as metadata for the install.
That was what I was.
Anaconda, all the tools do that. So
after you do the install, you can take that install log and do an auto YAS of it, and automate the install and duplicate that machine.
Every distribution has that capability. They don't advertise it or socialize it well.
Now I just check receive system mail because if I'm the only person created there, it makes sense to.
You're not Lee.
Well,
that's why he's saying, yeah, get all the junk.
So make sure those cron jobs fail often, huh?
Right. Yeah. Now it always defaults to having the firewall enable and secure shell disable. So I enable SSH. That's the one change I usually make. One thing, selecting the software, I've had trouble in the past. I haven't had the courage to try changing the software.
You did it, huh?
Yeah, go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
I do like the way it does it.
Yeah, and if you want to do dev, you can check once. It'll install all the compilers and links for you, whatever language you want.
You can choose your GNOME at this point, so you have both GNOME and KDE, or we didn't choose KDE.
Well, you don't want KDE. Don't want KDE. Too much to install. You don't want GNOME either.
Okay.
Fine water.
Okay, let's go. Okay. Is there anything else you want to get rid of?
If it's a server, I get rid of most. But back up.
Get rid of off.
Hang on. There's one thing we missed. It's about 4 screens back. If you're building a server, you do minimum install.
Right.
And it takes about 15 minutes. It takes about 10 minutes.
Did we get that choice yet?
It was on one of the screens about four back. I missed it. I can't go back there. You see, you can hit OK there. You can go back from there though. I think it's back.
No, you missed it.
You missed it. Next.
I didn't see it.
Yeah.
I completely missed it. So choose Chicago.
There. Move server selection.
There it is.
The bottom. Yeah.
No X at all.
This is,
if if you choose, if you want, if it's a server you want to do that. Because a lot of times I'll drop XFCE on there just because I've got other admins that might have to get in there and they're not shell aware. But if it's something for me, there's no reason to put XFCE on.
Now, in this, with that selection, you have to create a partition setup. It doesn't really propose anything.
Yeah, that's fine. Separate home partition, yeah, that's fine. Check ButterFS just for that.
You're looking good. No, with Butter, when you choose ButterFS, it creates subvolumes for everything. Home, ops, SRV, TMP, user local, var crash, var log, var op, var spool, var temp.
You guys know a reason why you don't want to do that on a virtualized machine?
Tell us why.
I/O contention.
Uh-huh. So should we maybe not do ButterFS?
Yeah, I'll check.
I/O contentions when you have so much going on and just what it thinks are individual drives, when in reality it's all trying to write that one image drive on your laptop.
And so in reality, it should be separate physical drives for each.
Well, in reality, it should be using what it thinks is its own disk queuing to queue those writes itself. But it actually thinks that they're sometimes separate volumes, and if you load them up, sometimes they're separate LVMs or LVs or on your virtual stuff. So it'll actually think can address them independently. But in all reality, you're just
but on a real machine,
performance.
each of those would be a separate physical drive.
They could be,
Yeah.
yeah. But in a
Or
real
separate virtual drive. Actually.
Go ahead and set up a special virtual drive.
We want to go faster. We don't want to take a lot of time.
I've actually done some of this today.
Back to here.
has to make sure your password's strong.
It says the password is really not very strong. You really want to do that. Okay, do you want to select some more software or
Yeah.
just or
Well, you check it, just make sure it doesn't throw in GNOME on it.
Nope.
there's nothing there?
That'll be the fastest install, you're not pulling any extra.
Okay.
Does it automatically load a tab key still even on minimum install?
So yeah, a minimum install of Debian can be 65 meg. A default install of Red Hat is a core. Build type is 300 megabytes.
And this one will be done.
Ubuntu cannot do a minimum install.
There is no minimum. Minimum is undefined.
Minimum is everything.
Well, no, they actually want you to download the Ubuntu server ISO. You can't use the desktop ISO.
So is the server smaller than the desktop because it leaves out the expense stuff?
Yeah, but I mean, it's just the point is that
It's a
you
separate
can't
option.
have that one thing. There's every other distro. You can
You have
do
a
it all
checkbox.
from one box. Yeah.
So it's just leaving stuff out for the most part. Why not?
Stop using logic here.
Oh, yeah. So now it's downloading all the modules that were selected. This is the network install variation. I don't know how to do that for us.
So Gary, while we're watching the fancy dancy bars on the screen, What do you think? We might have an option of doing something after we.
I think I'd like something that might have,
Well, I was going to wait another half an hour before we discuss that. Because if we discuss it, this little stomach over here is going to go.
No, we don't have too much time.
yeah, it's gone from 28% to 33%. It was like 28% when it started.
Tell you what, Don, pass me the video cord, but not the network cord. And I can talk about 13.2 for a minute until you're done.
Okay.
He just needs the
You don't need that part.
I don't even want that part.
I know. Do you have an HDMI there, Lee?
I don't know. I never looked. I don't.
Because I threw an HDMI cable in with the projector this time.
I have an HDMI adapter.
Right, but I think his laptop actually has a port.
Oh, okay.
Okay. One of the neat things is, again, with SUSE, it's not rolling, but it's a locked, I don't know what you call it, locked. It's major version only. You know, so if you want to talk to somebody on the forum, you have to be in the current version, which is now 13. 13.1 came out last fall. 13.2 is online here for about another 2 or 3 months. There are some neat things in 13.2. BetterFS will be the default, as well as the Wicked Network Management Tool. I have no idea what that is, and DreCut for NIDRD.
Whipped. Whipped.
Whipped. Mm-hmm. Oh, Wicked, okay. Wicked, whatever. Yes, this gets a new look and feel. Warned QT5. Zipper has been updated. KDE Framework 5 is there in 13.2.
Oh, it's my network connection.
And that's RPM systems updated. More graphic stuff. Zen 4.4, VirtualBox 4.3.8, Postgres 9.3. And I don't have network connection. I can't read the rest of it, but there's a lot of new development tools here on the bottom that might be interesting. 13.2 should be a pretty good release.
How many of you guys have got off GCC 4.5 yet? Crickets?
How many of us use GCC?
I'm sorry?
You might ask first, how many of us use GCC?
How many of you guys use GCC on a daily basis?
Daily basis, no. 6 months ago.
You used it once? And how did it work out for you? Oh, good job. Kind of like Freebird. How many guitars does it take to play Freebird? Apparently all of them.
You know, I used it once, like, a couple of years ago.
Okay, my network connection has died. Something is happening that I don't understand.
I can't ping anything.
That must be all its Apple stuff.
Right.
I can't ping anything.
You can't ping anything?
Or maybe something in the building. They shut it down with both too much damage.
I think I heard the refrigerator kick on. Probably. That's taking a bandwidth.
Maybe they don't use SUSE at this institution. They want people
I just pulled down thing saying celebrating 30 years of X.
Oh yeah, that was news today. Yeah, it looks like they're blocking ICMP at the moment, so your pings are failing for that reason.
Yeah, I know better than I just say, let me be
Who counts something like Linux?
So he's coming from the grave, Zombie Steve.
That means our build won't get complete,
That needs to go about the.
That was so close.
I know.
And actually, I think if you didn't check one of the like the butter or something, you might have been able to do the base install from the net install. But it's just
Well, you did check butter, yeah, check it.
no. He did check it for a moment and it tried to download it, and so it's probably still in the chain somewhere.
Oh,
so you got jammed and installing that.
Well, I don't like calling it butter, and I shouldn't call it butter.
I know, I know.
It's BTRFS.
That's what I call it. You ever read some of the original documents?
Very what?
You just didn't read.
Ah.
That earlier was a killed a connection to one of our servers in the office. And from that point on, everything got to the Wi-Fi stuff. Okay, so that's what we've got.
Do you have a USB stick or something? I can do the install.
He has a USB stick that I can't read.
Okay. That's a display port. That's not right.
It's try it, might work.
Huh?
push harder.
Just push harder.
Yeah.
No, force it to the bigger hammer.
Thank you, sir.
Heard some people can put a 5-inch quarter floppy into the slot.
It's old.
Yeah. It doesn't exist.
Did you hold down
Blowing
the
it, blowing
slide
it,
when you put it in?
warmer,
Sometimes
colder,
slide
or
goes
is
back.
it just because what?
I'm sorry?
Did you hold down the button when you put it in? Sometimes it works back. You know, the
No, yeah, it's plugged in, but it is.
It doesn't auto mount because it's an EFI partition.
Yeah, give me a moment here.
Well, there when you're ready.
But you guys use SUSE at work, Andrew? Or at all?
I'm not going to say much because we're live recording.
He can't answer the question.
I thought nobody knew where you worked.
We can't discuss it because of the DoD.
If he told us, we'd have to tell us.
No, if I told you, I'd have to resuscitate you because you'd die laughing.
Oh. Oh, that's right. Most of your systems are Windows XP, right?
The ones that aren't Windows 2000.
Yeah, the only reason I gave up Windows 2000 was the tax software wouldn't run on it anymore.
Okay, so Gary, what was the answer to the question that I asked about half an hour ago?
Pizza and beer.
Something to tell you.
Yeah. So you're done. You're not wrong. I mean, it literally has no file system set on it. This drive.
They're out of anchovies.
Oh, anchovies, that's what they're called.
Like I said.
They didn't have any yesterday.
Typically.
So they did something right.
So yeah, there's no file system set on this drive at all.
It's first partition's EFI, the second partition's HPFS.
The second partition has a boot and hidden flag, but it didn't have anything else.
Someone must kill it, and it looks fine on my machine. That's the other remote. It's really weird though. Chances of burning a bootable USB stick are about 1 in 5.
That's a lot better results than I have.
Yes.